Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wavemakers Podcast, where we focus on the people in the maritime industry. These are the leaders who are shaping the future of shipping at the intersection of digital transformation and decarbonization. My guest today is a captain turned serial entrepreneur, and he's definitely an advocate for youth, for innovation, and a decarbonized future. And it is my pleasure to welcome Captain Rami Al Breiki. Thank you for becoming my guest.
Absolute pleasure.
Usually we represent people by their titles. I would love you to share, who are you?
First of all, humbled by this lovely introduction. As the title suggests, I come from a seafaring professional background. I was very fortunate to go through this different paths of careers, starting from the maritime industry. I started early as a deck cadet on LNG carriers, climbed up and did the usual promotion pathway to take command, and then while sailing as well on offshore support vessels. So that was a total of 10 years of sailing times and sea time. Then I realized there's more to life than that, because once you hit a certain maturity level, you would want to get a change of scenery, perhaps. So I've decided that I want to get some kind of a entrepreneurial journey, but I didn't know much about that. The experience that I faced on the ship was a bit different compared to what office and corporate life is all about. There was the fair share of paperwork towards the end of it, but no, it was more about protecting the asset that you are, and whatever it's the cargo or the vessel or the safety of the people on itself. After leaving that, I did that career shift. I joined a business banking job. Did a couple of years on that, and then investment, real estate investment finance, corporate banking. Total of 4 years. It was pretty much my MBA. Because I decided if I get an MBA, for me, someone like me learns hands-on, I would just benefit by hanging it on a wall or something. But I said, let's do that, and I've done it. In late 2019, I quit that job and started my own company. It was a marine services and consulting activities. There were some, S&P and chartering brokerage as well. A year after that, that was in 2020. It was a bit of a tough year to start as an entrepreneur, because you need the networking, which was not happening.
Yes.
But then again, the shipping industry was, benefiting from certain things. There was a bit of a spike into the dry bulk and container shipping. So I did quite well enough for me to expand into ship management, which was covering both technical and commercial. And then in 2022, I decided to start something that holds a dear kind of position in my heart. So I co-founded a company called NeoNautica. And what NeoNautica does is a platform that incubates certain innovations, certain technology advancements, and proudly approaching certain patented technology that have proven their successful trajectory from a prototype now entering into a certain technology readiness level advancements. There are certain things that we've explored, and big things are coming, hopefully, as we spent the past 2.5 to 3 years doing a lot of discussions with certain creators, let's say. So we've created this ecosystem for them to take not only to take their product to market, but also further advance it. And what we did was to create this kind of an ecosystem that each creator benefits from a certain aspect of the other creator's innovative solution. So that was something that kept me busy. We also embarked on a journey with the platform called Blue Pass, which is a digital platform in partnership with the UAE Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure. I'll talk about it later, but this is me in a nutshell. I was part, and I'm still is, I was a chairman of a non-government organization called YoungShip. It is it's an organization that does its fair pledges and fights for the youth development and empowering them and giving them a chance to interact. It helped me very greatly in my career as an entrepreneur. So I joined as a member, board member, and then chairman. So it was recently, there was another re-election. So I'm still a board member. And through that, we've started also having a seat on the UAE National Maritime team. So this is in a nutshell.
Just a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think now it is also clear to many how your background is truly that intersection of all these three core pillars that I try to cover with the podcast. It sounds that initially you were taking a traditional path into shipping, and then somehow you were trying to find your print, right? To bring that inner self and shape the industry to it. And as you're doing all these different initiatives and venturing, what is your vision for the world that you would love to create, let's say 2030 or 40, whichever you prefer?
That's a very broad question, but I always think of myself as a never finished product. So I always, whenever I feel like that I've done this or done that, just inevitably think that there's more. And I'll just try to keep it together throughout the journey, because it is when you're an entrepreneur and you're doing certain things, the start is a bit difficult. You're wearing every hat. Then things take a certain turn, and then you try to keep up with the pace and scaling up. And so learning is a great thing to keep in mind. Keep improving. I hope by the next, let's say, 10 years, the things that we worked comes to fruition, hopefully. We are on a good track. Maybe personal note, maybe I would think family would deserve more time. So I'll try my best to do that as well. Yeah, but I can't have enough of it.
Yeah.
Well, so let's see.
You tried to deviate from maritime, but then came back to it, right?
Yeah. That would, when I decided to stop that career, at least for the time being, I don't know. I don't really have any plans to go back, but it was because of family. My first son was born when I was away. I couldn't be there. So then you realize that the more you are out there, the more things you miss out. Maybe back in those days, there was no Starlink or the satellite internet, so we only had to rely on what we can get as a signal when you're at port. So I wasn't something that made it easy as a career, despite, apart from all the other challenges. But yeah, that was a very important thing that I had to make it as a decision. Like I had to consider it.
Many of us got a glimpse of how it feels to be somewhat isolated in 2020, but this is something that seafarers face for a very long period, right? And while some of us still felt the cushions of a home during that period, that was 1 to 3 months, but still it was not complete isolation as it is at sea, right? So I believe that we still can't fully empathize with how it feels unless you're out there. Then probably all these feelings now come back into doing what you do and working with youth, and all these moments create who you are as a leader, which is impactful then for future. And what is it now that inspires you the most? Like, what are the things that you, when you do it, as you said, we wear many hats as entrepreneurs. What is the one that makes you spark that passion and maybe fills the cup for the rest, that maybe bureaucracy that you like less?
No, honestly, it's there's few things that keep me motivated. Certain challenges that it's like that picks your brain sometimes, like how to go about this, or how this is what makes it interesting, because you're on like usually when you have your own business, you're on the driver's seat. You're not like just an employee. So you really have to think, you be quick on your feet sometimes. So that's what makes it fun, to me at least.
Yeah.
But of course, developing your network, meeting new people every day, finding, building bridges that you never thought that you will. Not to compromise on certain values, but also making sure that as a an entrepreneur, you're adding and reciprocating the same value.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd like to tap into certain things that you never considered in your intellect. So that makes it interesting. And honestly speaking, coming from the seafaring background, it's a bit of a different ball game, because there it's about trusting the process, not to cut any corners, because it's all about making sure that everything is safe. So you have to abide by a lot of checklists, let's say. To transit from that mentality to this corporate fast-paced mentality, it's a bit interesting for me. It was always something that provoked me to do this step, and I enjoy every bit of it.
Mm-hmm. Are there any disciplines or behaviors that you learned as a seafarer that you now find extremely useful?
The discipline attitude itself is important.
Mm-hmm.
Not to take anything lightly. Most of the things, of course, out of the certain scopes that you can, take it easily. But out there, you're always, your situational awareness is always hyped up. So you're always making sure that everything, whether you're in a marine engineering background or a deck officer, the same applies across the board, because everything is about safety. Everything is about making sure, like, the whole ecosystem on that ship functions and it's actually practical. One of the things also is the people skills, because the tankers that I sailed with, we had 25 to 30 plus crew members, and they all come from a different background, from a different school of thought, generationally even, from the juniors to the seniors. So, and you're stuck out there for at least 6 months, sometimes a year. So that you have to create this, develop this bond every time you sign on a ship with these people who are, once you meet them, they are just random people, but then you develop this kind of strong bond, and you know how to navigate through the cultural differences and thoughts. So that, I think that one of the things that actually helped me nowadays.
You have to learn how to work as a team, right? And overcome any boundaries and develop
100%.
that trust and trust each other with your lives.
Trust is, that's a very good point, because it's all about trust there. Of course, we work under an umbrella of one company, but then every day you are doing something that is somehow dangerous. So you have to be clear in your communication and trust what's been conveyed to you and how people are carrying out, and are they actually doing things the way they should. So trust is a very important thing.
Mm-hmm. Now that we are on a vessel in the story, I will take a fun twist to it.
Okay.
If you were a vessel, which vessel would you be and why?
If I were a vessel, that's
Yes.
a very nice question. I didn't sail on one, but I think of myself as a multi-purpose vessel. The general cargo, the multi-purpose MPP. I've learned to be flexible. Adaptability is one of the biggest things I think I have as points of strength. Always doing different things at the same time. I call it multitasking, but sometimes it's almost like juggling things around. But it is. I think that's how I think I could be. Always, usually multi-purpose vessels don't have fixed trades, so it's always shifting around from this trade to that trade, sometimes carrying vehicles and then machineries and then certain dry bulk or whatever. So has been my journey. So I guess that I fit that description.
Interestingly, founders that I've interviewed gave me similar answers.
Oh.
So they also identify themselves with ships that don't have fixed routes and that are in a spot market
100%.
and juggling, because maybe it does take a special brain setup to be an entrepreneur, but it is what we do, and I guess
True.
we do it because we enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, if you're content with your job or career, that's good. I mean, I'm not against it. I'm not here preaching for people to all go and start a business. It's not for the faint-hearted, not at all. So if you enjoy the daily things that life can throw at you, and you love the more of it, then yeah.
And if you enjoy sailing with uncertainties and
100%.
being splashed left, right, and center, then
Yeah.
then this is the chair to
It
be in, and
It is.
steer the best that you can. And when it comes to working with youth, what would you aim to pass on to them? What is something that you say, okay, if I manage to give them this grain to take forward, what would that be?
I don't want to sound old. So I'd like to think that I'm young too, but yeah, I am a millennial, let's say. Okay, so there's Gen Z, Gen X, whatever. So I think as an advantage, millennials have been exposed to different eras. We've seen the industrial era, and then suddenly we saw the shift into the internet bubble, and then now the digital and information era. So we literally got our hands dirty when we were kids, playing outside, climbing a tree, getting into fights. So these things we did as you know, but the newer generations are a bit. I mean, their chances of the interactions with the you know, physical outside kind of outgoing world is a bit lessened. I see it in my kids even. In their age, I was like always outside.
Yeah.
But they are watching screens now. So we try to do that. But back to the same point, what I would advise them maybe to work on their people skills. We've done things as you know, I think millennials, I don't know if you're the same. Millennials, we are like, we got the sweet spot. We faced the boomers. We learned a few things with them. And then we met the newer generations, and we saw what happens. And we saw all the transitions from newspapers, magazines, now to social media. So we've seen it all. So I guess with that, we've learned how to change and adapt. So the newer and the youth also have to work on their adaptability, their flexibility. It's not always my way or the highway. So you have to be flexible, accommodate certain needs so that you get your own. So it's about that. Not that I'm saying that they're selfish, but and very unpopular opinion. They might be a bit entitled in certain things, and people can see that, and they don't see it the way people like. We can relate to a boomer more than them. We see them, we understand where they're coming from. They've seen only industrial. So the newer generations, when they are now, you know, either into college, graduating, or coming into the workforces, there's a gap that needs to be bridged. So I guess digital literacy is also important, but I think they're doing well with that. But it's always growing. So they have to keep learning. They have to improve themselves. I guess that applies across the board.
I read something, not sure where, but it said that millennials are the last generation that knows what the world before digital
100%.
world, what it looked like and how that experience of life was. And it caught me off guard because I thought to myself, wow, I'm old. but it was an interesting one. And then we are this generation in between, the bridgers. Yeah. We built bridge between
a lot of social movement also came from this generation.
Yes. And yesterday, I think one of my guests, she works also with students, so she was referring to how it feels to also be that bridge between how they see the world and think of innovation, and then how they react, and also how they're perceived by older generations that have like lived and felt the world and was on the vessel, and how they leave them space to also learn and be humbled by experience. And let's see what is there to witness.
What natural selection will be.
Yeah. I also know that you are an advocate for decarbonization, and that you're also quite active in that area. Why so? I
mean, it's not just a trend, I guess. It's what if everyone must, you know, address this topic at some point in their life. Either they are just a normal person who's doing their 9 to 5. it already became part of everyone's lives. So when it comes to business, not to capitalize on it, but to actually find tangible solutions and see what you can do. I'm not claiming that I'm doing, actually, as the podcast suggests, a wave maker, but like everyone plays a role. So as I explained before, like what we do with NeoNautica is explore these opportunities, people who come with a certain perspective, and we try to connect the dots and go beyond from a commercial perspective. But more on the blue pass, if you have seen what we have communicated to the world, that the UAE leadership and the government has been doing a lot of tremendous work into this topic. People have seen it highlighted at Amplified. It was in Expo 2020, but it was 2021. So that is what has been announced, and then with the ministry itself that we partnered with, the goal of the platform is to create this digitized experience for the private sector, benefiting from certain incentives that the government and key players in the public sector are doing or offering. So there's what the marketplace is all about. So they list themselves, they interact with each other, seamless interaction, offering certain incentives and offsets. And there's what the digitized live data extraction of traffic of the vessels. So that started in the maritime industry, and now we're going into the land, rail, and aviation, integrating the
full
same.
supply chain.
Yeah, so suddenly it's growing arms and legs. So
Wow.
let's see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, what motivates me more is like, I'm proud to say that I come from the maritime industry because, in my opinion, and I don't know if someone can refute this, I guess it has shown, comparing to other sectors, it has shown tangible, significant, and very genuine steps towards achieving that. The IMO has set 20, 30, 40%. But if you see what has been done, for example, let's say LNG fuel, dual fuel engines, it's becoming a norm now in the shipping industry.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a massive industry. It's the backbone of every economy, and the vessels are, not easy things to retrofit, or even new builds. Just a new build with these new things and new fuels, future fuels, and hoping for the best is not an easy decision. Comparing to other, let's say aviation contributes to, I think, 2.8%, comparing to what the maritime is only to 2.5. But look at what has been achieved in maritime comparing to aviation. So that's what makes me motivated, because from this sector, we can do a lot, and everyone is supporting. Even the ones who are not, for commercial reasons, they are open and receptive to new ideas, and they even consider trying few new solutions, or even listen to what has been achieved. So
yes,
altogether, it is a very ancient industry. There has been a great part of it which is legacy, and there's a heavy lean on that, but it has a reason. What we do as legacy is because of the isolation out there. You still need to resort to certain old practices. But then again, when it comes to advancement, when it comes to new implementations to achieve those targets, it's the most, I think the strongest approach has been shown in the maritime industry.
With governments also setting up the platforms and the infrastructure for that decarbonized shipping world, it does show the level of progress. And you said that it is a traditional industry, etc. And I personally believe that it has been changing dramatically in 100%. The past 5 to 7 years because of all these reasons. And it's not just retrofit the ship or build a new engine. It's also all these different parts, how it affects the full supply chain, right? And the massive infrastructure everywhere. That is the ripple effect, and it's also why certain things take time, because one needs to affect all the stakeholders down the value chain. And okay, you can make a new ship and use a different engine, but are you gonna have fuel available where you need it, and how is that gonna go? But that technology is also being scaled up, and I have had experience with scaling chemical processes, and you think, okay, everything is on track, and suddenly things are not, and it takes so much time to figure out why. it's not as easy always to understand why things take time, but good things take time too. Also with food, right? Good meals are cooked
100%.
for a while.
It's a steep learning curve for everyone involved in this industry, but we see that everyone is actually doing something. I mean, you face the obstacles and some certain pitfalls, but then again, at least from a UAE perspective, the government is very supportive. There's a lot of platforms and forums where people meet and talk about, tangible solutions, not just what's the topic of today, decarbonization, and everyone just runs their mouths. No, everyone is showing and showcasing what they're actually doing. What is the tangible and practical solutions that they have implemented. So that's encouraging for me.
Is there any particular technology that you are personally curious about that maybe it's not even mature yet, but then you find yourself Googling about it?
Well, there are things that we have examined in NeoNautica, and I don't want to say them now because they're still not really out there yet. But AI has been also a very thought-provoking. I mean, I'm still a student into this, but yeah, it's amazing what things can be done. Automation and robots also is a bit like, if I was talking about this 10 years ago, people would think that this guy's talking about, what is it? Like, now it's really happening. Things are actually taking over.
Yes.
So if you don't get on that gravy train from any perspective you like, it will be hard to catch up later.
It holds a value to be an early adopter even of a test because of the learnings. Yeah. So once you take that path along the way of development, then at a certain point you can decide, this is for me, this is not, these are the limitations, and have knowledge and make an informed decision. At least that's my take on it, as opposed to trying to avoid it and hope that
you can't. You just can't.
It's not, but
it's
afterwards it's too fast.
Nowadays, becoming part of everything you do.
Yeah.
Like everything, literally everything. And to me, at least, it became a very essential tool in so many things I do. And at least I can say it saves me a lot of time. You don't take it as it is, of course. You have to, but at least you don't start from scratch with certain things that you do. So why not capitalize on that? And not only capitalize on that, be part of it. Learn what you can do to implement it into your own business.
Do you have any questions for me?
I would like to hear also your take on what could be a good advice to the youth. I know that we come from the same generation, the same but yeah, from a women's perspective is also important. We try to do our best to help with the initiatives that empower women into the maritime sector itself or in general. So maybe I would like to hear something from your side.
Yes, I would love them to not be afraid of trying something. So even if it doesn't seem as logical, whatever they have passion for, that they just try to do it and try to reach out to a certain person, right? Because even this is a simple message and an intention that you put out, and then it happens. So I would love them to be brave and to pursue their passion. What I think I am still not as good as is to be a good listener. Sometimes, I found myself entering different organizations, and you see room for improvement and for implementation of new technologies, and you go there and you want to do everything tomorrow. And maybe I was not listening enough why certain things were the way they were, or why certain technologies were implemented or not implemented. So as youth is now excited about new technologies and everything, maybe also to take a step back to talk to the people who have come from a different world and understood why and why not, and then from that place of understanding and respect, then start slowly shaping it in a way that maybe they would love to see it become.
That's true. They might get caught up with like new technology, everything is new, the world is changing, but just why not try to reinvent the wheels in certain topic?
Yeah.
See what people has been achieving and maybe learn from those experiences. Yeah.
Yes. I think I'm still a student of patience. I'm not really a patient person,
Okay.
but and I think that youth can identify with that usually.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's a good trait to have.
Yeah. Pushes you sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. From a women's perspective, I think it's good times. I think the world is becoming more open to accommodating us in that equal way. But I personally, I think I shared this also sometimes before. Somehow I am an only child, so at home my dad would always ask me certain relevant topics at the dinner table, and like he would value my opinion. So I never grew up to think that I can't share it, or so I always felt comfortable also in some of this like energy sector, shipping sector, and maybe it comes from within, feeling that okay, this is where I belong, and not maybe caring of the percentage distribution, and then not feeling that I'm a minority. So in that sense, other girls who are curious about these industries but maybe not sure if that's for them, be encouraged to try. So
Definitely, yeah.
yeah.
I agree. They not to put themselves out there, but there's a lot of things in this industry that is beyond just sailing. Yeah, so I agree with you.
What do you think would be surprising, or if you have some fun story to share?
I like music. So I tried my hand with the guitar. I'm still an amateur, but still, like, it is fun how this instrument helps your mind, because you're that only gives you this disconnect of things that distort your thoughts, but it gives you this well-balanced thought of doing two things at the same time, and then watching how the strings react to it and what you actually produce out of it. So this is something that people have to find something out of, what keeps them busy every day, just to give themselves a moment to reflect and then to do what they like and enjoy it, but also watch their mind develop. So I guess that's fun fact about me, maybe. At least.
Do you learn it from YouTube, or you have classes?
I picked it up at sea.
Uh-huh.
And some of the seafarers, they always have their own guitars with them. So
yeah.
Not that you don't have, you have a lot of time or free time on board, but you have some of these moments, like you run out of books to read or movies to watch, so
Yes.
you pick up something. And that's how I was introduced to it. I'm guilty to say that lately it's been collecting dust because I'm too busy, but now this is a moment for me to remember, like, I should pick it up again and brush up on my skills.
I always wanted to play a guitar, and somehow I thought I'm not talented for that. But I always admire people who take it up and learn.
It's excruciating at the beginning because it's always painful to hold the strings and all, and it gets frustrated like the whole time.
Yeah.
So it also teaches you how to be patient, to wait for the result. It's not about knowing the chords or knowing the transitions of any kind of arrangements, but it's also holding the chords firmly, and it's a really, really horrible pain. But keeping your mind focused and trusting the process. So that's how it helps.
For me, it would be orchids. I love growing orchids.
Okay.
But that is what you were explaining about the guitar reminded me of that process, because sometimes you don't think anything is happening, and you kind of have to feel what they need. Like sometimes they need fertilizer, sometimes more light, sometimes you just need to talk to them, and then suddenly one root starts growing or a stem, and then again they take their time, so you don't know if it will be 1 month, 6 months, whatever. So you just have to trust the process, and then they reward you with a flower at some point.
True. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I found myself, like, I've received gifts of flowers or whatever. I found myself with a lot of dead ones, but it's true, because sometimes it's too much water or too less water, too less sunlight, or you never know.
I have to then give you like tips on how to take care. But that's like I was horrible at it, and then I said, okay, I really want to work on this in my life. And it's actually, people throw them, but they need this time to be calm and stable. And somehow when they feel safe, like, okay, this is where I am and I'm safe here, then they like start growing. And to me, it's also a lesson of life, actually, that sometimes, yeah, you can't rush things. You can't rush the process, and you have to keep doing, and you have to tune in with the things you do. And then eventually you see the result, but it's when you actually give up on the result, right? You just repeat things every single day and trust the process, the intention, and do your best. So, yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, I will thank you for being my guest
Absolute
today.
pleasure.
And I hope that people learned something new about you, about entrepreneurship, about some simple things that actually drive us, and from where we actually then drive the change. Why I call it Wavemakers, sometimes it's not a particular thing, but it's actually all these small efforts and the persistence. And I do think that it takes courage to change and to drive that change, and to advocate for it. So that's why Wavemakers.
I wish you all the success, and thank you for hosting me. This was very, very enjoyable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it.